today's top tip, I'm going to show you how we get this beautiful effect here shown, which is where we've got this wonderful sort of white veining on this leaf pattern, but all this sort of raised green pattern. And we do this using the Nellie Snellen 3D embossing folder and matching mask set. So this is just called leaf grain, and it's a really simple technique to do. So you're just going to need your embossing folder, your stencil, and 3 colours of an ink. I'm using the Fusion inks because I think the gold sheen on them is absolutely beautiful for this. And we can get lots of different effects with water. So I've got a square of white card, and I've cut this to 5.5 by 5.5, which is actually the exact pattern shape of the design. So I don't have to trim it down at all. So we'd simply run that through our machine and emboss that to give us this beautiful sort of leaf grain pattern. And I'm placing it on my mat so that it won't move, and I find this a lot easier. If you haven't got one of the Crafts 2 sort of multi-purpose mats, then you may need to tape this down. You may need to be a little bit more secure. Then I simply take the stencil and match the pattern. So we find where the leaf is coming from, there it is, match the pattern, and it will click in. And that's the good thing about having a 3D embossing folder with a stencil. And this itself won't move once it's on the mat, but to stop it lifting up as it just have there, I'm simply going to take a little bit of the Craft Artist low tack tape, and I only need to tape it down when I'm using the mat in a couple of places. So make sure I'm happy it's completely covering it right, and then just tape the stencil down, and that won't move on its own at all. So I'm going to start with the lime colour here, and it's just a case of putting that through as heavy or as light as you want to. Obviously I'm holding the stencil slightly, but I'm just going to put that in one corner, and then my tape's going over that corner a little bit, so let's just move that, and going over the second corner just like that. And the great thing with the Fusion is you don't have to be careful, and the fact that you'll get different lights and tones and shades depending on how heavy or how light you are. So that's with the lime. I'm then going to go in with the apple, which is sort of brighter, fresher green, and I'm using a smaller dauber here because I want this just to run around this main seam like this. Nice and simple. And then I'm going to go in with Sunfruit, which is a sort of yellow colour with copper in it. So I just want to pick up some Sunfruit. Mine's getting a little dry. And I'm simply going to merge across that area there that I've left white. So it's almost going through that border, just like that. And then we go back in with our line over the top, which will just blend down that Sunfruit colour, but it gives the warmth in the centre. And this would look beautiful if you did it in all autumnal shades. We'll have to have a go at one of those. But then when we remove the stencil, there you get that beautiful sheen, but clear, crisp, white lines of the embossing, or of the sort of leaf pattern. So here I've got a card blank. I've simply cut that to 7 by 7, so it's just a handmade card blank at 7 by 7, so it's exactly the right size. I've put a mat of 6 3/4 of coconut white card on. I've then put that with a mat of 6 7/8 of green on there, and I've just used our new evergreen essential card. The white is the coconut white, and a little bit of foam tape really helps make your embossing stand out. So I'm just going to take off here the pieces from the foam tape and pop that onto our card, and then you can add a sentiment or flowers or leaves or whatever you want on there. So I'm just going to pop that nice and centrally into there, and again foam tape on the back of this layer. So again, just pull those bits off to give you that little bit of shadowing, and straight onto your 7 by 7 card, as a top fold, as it will hold the weight a lot better. And that's how we get this beautiful reverse stencil look, by using an embossing folder and a matching stencil.